I thank the witnesses for their testimony. The chair will now recognize members for 5 minutes each for questions. Okay, and the chair recognizes himself for 5 minutes. My first question is for Ms. Gibson. Ms. Gibson, our ranking member cited traditional energy subsidies of $15 billion annually. Given your expertise in alternative energy, how much in subsidies was provided under the Inflation Reduction Act?
Thank you for your question. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your question. I don't know the exact number offhand.
Okay, well, let me see if I can help a little bit. According to the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School, the CBO dramatically underestimated the $391 billion in energy and climate provisions, and that the true estimate is actually $1 trillion over a 10-year period. The Cato Institute placed the number actually much higher, at between $2 trillion and $4.67 trillion, and that is over 100 times the cited subsidy that was mentioned in the opening remarks for an industry sector that makes up less than 10% of domestic energy production. The truth is that the subsidy that appears to be required for so-called renewable energy to be competitive as an economic energy source only masks the true cost of that energy and dramatically increases the debt our nation passes on to the next generation. My next question is for Mr. Sweetnam. Your analysis makes a critical point about energy transitions. They take time, and they tend to be additive, not subtractive. That aligns with what Alaskans know, my home state. Wind and solar can complement but not replace baseload power in a state with 30 below zero winters and thousands of miles between grid connections. So let me ask you, given what we've seen with recent grid instability and surging demand, how dangerous is it economically and strategically to overestimate the speed of the renewable transition, particularly when it leads to sidelining proven resources like Alaskan oil and gas?
Thank you for the question. It is true that the grid has become less reliable as we increase our dependence on renewable energy. It also makes the energy more expensive, and we see that all around the world. Because the wind and solar are weather dependent, they're intermittent. And so they can produce when the sun's shining and the wind's blowing. But there are periods, and sometimes they're long periods, when the wind is not blowing. And of course, every night you have to worry about not having solar, but even cloudy days, you don't have the peak capacity. So what happens is that if you want the grid to be reliable, you have to have dispatchable capacity equal to your peak load. And so that means that you need to have gas or coal or nuclear, something that you can turn on and off. It's not weather dependent. And when you have to have that capacity, but then you bring in the renewables and you run the renewables, the load factor, the capacity factor, those other facilities goes down. And that's what makes the electricity more expensive. And we've seen it all around the world, in the US and Europe, state by state, in Asia where I'm working. You can see as you increase the renewables, the price to the customer goes up. And that's because you have to have two energy systems. And that's just more expensive. The issue of so I'll leave it there. Thank you.
We've noticed, follow-up question, we've noticed in Alaska, in areas where there are microgrids deployed, the attempt to utilize renewable energy sources as an adjunct to traditional diesel fuel generation has led to actual increases in the consumption of diesel fuel. Can you comment on perhaps why that may be the case?
No, I think I'd have to know the specifics. You're saying increases, what if they're replacing? I don't think that should cause an increase. So I'm sorry, I need to know the specifics.
Yeah, and I'll provide you with some additional specifics. So,
thank you.
Yeah, so what we've observed is that, that in order to continue to restart that diesel generation capacity, it actually increases the amount of diesel consumption because of the intermittent nature of the so-called renewable sources of energy.
Yes. You've raised a very important point, which is that because the renewable sources like wind and solar are direct current, they have to go through an inverter to create the alternating current that our electric grids run on. And they don't have the physical inertia associated with the rotating machinery, the generators. And in fact, they follow the generators. And what happens is if there is a reduction in renewable energy, you can have a shortage and then a trip off and a blackout. In Australia in 2016, they had a black start problem where they didn't have enough rotating machinery. So the inertia associated with the rotating machinery is very important to the stability of the grid.
Thank you for clarifying that. Now, I'd recognize our ranking member, Dr. Dexter, for any questions for the witnesses.